forum. And what we did was we took everybody's name that indicated they had a question for the group. We put it in a hat over here, and I drew them out. I only drew 5. We have another 5 as the backup, because as I indicated earlier, that I hope that you folks in the audience, when you ask the question, you will direct it at an individual. The individual candidate basically has 3 minutes to answer that question, and I will have them on a timer. If each individual candidate is given the 3 minutes to answer that question, we'll get through one question in 30 minutes. So we're either going to be here late tonight, or I ask you to address the question to one candidate only. And I might allow, if somebody else wants to add something to it, but I'm trying to just let you answer the questions, and then we move the process along, and hopefully we can get all of the questions that were put in the hat. So having said that, everybody understand the rules? The first question comes from Mr. John Gardner.
It's on. It's on. Okay, I'm going to ask Yvonne Harper. I'd like to know your feelings about incorporating Navarre, as in relation to how you see that affecting the county as a whole.
It's on speaker.
Can you hear me? So I have a soft voice, but I can yell if need be. So how incorporation would affect the county as a whole?
Correct.
Well, from my understanding, and I'm sure the commissioners can answer this more thoroughly than I can, if Navarre incorporates, that means the city would get some funds that the county currently gets, but it also means that the county would not have to bear the responsibility that it bears now with some issues, such as roads, bridges, the infrastructure, and just your basic day-to-day operations of the city, because it would be the city's responsibility to include law enforcement. If the city felt that the county law enforcement was not representing them adequately, then they would have to fund that as well. Your development codes as well would be determined by the city as well as the county. I believe they would still need to adhere to the county codes. With regards to incorporation, I think that people should have a voice and should be allowed to vote, but I think they need to be given all the information, because that is a very serious decision, and taxes would increase. There's not a city in this county that doesn't have a higher millage rate. So the people need to know, what that cost would be and what they would get in return, so they can weigh the cost benefit analysis to determine if it's worth it for them. But I am an advocate for all the information being put out there, good and bad, because there's not any policy that's created that doesn't have a positive or a negative, and so people can make an informed decision. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Get you really close. On the matter of incorporation, there'd be a lot of things that would have to be looked at if the incorporation passed, and Yvonne referred to a few of them. Whether or not the new city would want to have its own policing force, or like Jay, share that with the county deputies. Fire department, do you want to have a paid fire department, or do you want to continue with volunteer fire department? Public works, what would you have as far as public works? Would you form your own public works department and in fact have a public works department, or would you subcontract that out, or continue working with the county on that? So I think there'd be a lot of things that would have to be answered once that corporation moves forward, and I'm certainly hoping that the study that's going on will be available by the end of July to all the citizens. We'll answer some of these questions and basically focus on the best way to go. That's about the best I have right now. Because I'd support it. A lot of people misunderstood me that I wasn't for putting it on the ballot. I was always for putting it on a ballot, but I want everybody to be reading off the same sheet of music.
6 seconds left.
Okay, question number 2, Mr. Chuck Pullman.
I got a chance to talk to several of you just a minute ago. I didn't get a chance to talk to everybody. I apologize for that. My question is about Navarre Pass. It's been an issue for years, whether we should open it, or reopen it, I should say. or keep it the way it is. All the people that live down here, we understand what we have out here as far as the environment. We also have an economic situation that any community needs economic input, and we need to expand it a little bit. And I think the pass would really help us, number one, environmentally, and then number two, economically. I'm going to ask Jim Melvin to give me a little bit of help on this and see what his feelings are if you're reelected.
Yeah, I supported the pass. I wanted to commit to somebody to vote. I would push it if you trusted me with your vote, and you did, and I did. I still believe in it. It will clean the pass up. There are a couple of arguments you'll hear about the pass. They're both true. One is that it's going to kill the seagrasses that are presently in the sound, and that's true. The grasses that are in the sound right now are the only ones that can tolerate the level of pollution that we have. If we were to be able to open the pass up, you'd have the same emerald green water like you see at Destin's Inn and Pensacola's Inn. When I was a kid, remember I've been here forever, this stuff looked just like that. And it was full of what is called eelgrass, that real pretty ribbony grass. That's what's native, that's what will come back if we did it. Now the other dig that you hear on opening the pass is that, it'll cut off the natural flow from the lateral drift of the sand coming from east to west down the beach line. That's true, that would happen if you didn't take measures to mitigate that. There are measures that can be taken to mitigate that to keep from stopping the sand and have the pass. You can have your cake and eat it too in that case. So I would love to see it happen. It'd be good for the area. It'd be great environmentally. It would give us a fishing industry that would be rival what Destin, Pensacola has. People fly down here from all over the world to go catch snapper. It'd be an excellent thing to do. It'd be a great for Santa Rosa County in general, in particular. It would be great for the bar area. So I'd love to see it happen. I'm willing to shoulder that load again if the opportunity presents itself. How much time do I have?
Question?
Ruth Esser.
I'm completely for the pass. We live in the most beautiful community, and yet we don't have a pass. Destin has one, Perdido has one, but we're going to need to do the studies on our water outside of this area. If we do the studies here, we're going to get the same results we've gotten, so we'll get nowhere. We need to work with the military and have them assist us in accomplishing this. I don't see why we can't have this. It can't be an overnight thing. Commissioner Melvin worked extremely hard on trying to make it happen, and I think we'll have to continue that mission, but I am definitely one that would be pushing for that to happen.
Okay. Question number 3 comes from Ms. Lori Gallo.
No, okay. Thank you. This question goes to Commissioner Cole, and this is addressing our stormwater issues. I just want to point out that it's not just an issue that we have here in Holly by the Sea. We're also experiencing severe flooding in Navarre, first and second edition, as well as Cable Drive, and many of our areas that were developed in the 70s but weren't completely built out. So the problem that we're facing now with the flooding is that new homes are being built at a higher elevation than the existing homes. So these newer homes are flooding out the existing homes. Whenever we bring up that issue to our building department, we're told that, well, the stormwater is being controlled off of that new property that's being built, but then there's no consideration then for what the impact is to its neighbors. Well, in 2006 and 2007, I was actually on the Holly by the Sea Stormwater Committee, and we had many stormwater issues at that time as well. And I sat on the local mitigation strategy board, that would be the LMS strategy for hazardous mitigation funding through FEMA. And at that time, we were in line for a $5.3 million HMGP grant that we find out here maybe a couple of months ago was actually turned down by the county, and we did not get that money. Had something happened in 2007, then we probably wouldn't be where we are today. And I'm just asking, with this current effort that we're doing with Baskerville Donovan, what guarantees do we have that the same mistakes aren't going to be repeated by Santa Rosa County?
When you say mistakes, what are you referring to as mistakes?
Turning away $3 million in grant funding because had we done that in 06, 07, before all these houses were built in here, and done something about our stormwater, then we wouldn't be facing the issues that we're facing today.
To answer that question, I really need to, it's been several years ago, 5 years ago, in fact. I'd be glad to get that information and go back to you why we made that decision at that time. Best I recall, it was the matching funding that was not available at that time, and the ability to put the process or put the plan in place. And that's why since then, since 2009, we've done this cost share program with the people of Polygon C. The other thing I've done, I've asked our staff in planning and zoning, in Public Service Commission, Tony Gomillion, let's start looking at what we're going to do about some of the things you mentioned first, which is meets and bounds properties that basically developer buys the whole frontage on a road, has no ability or no need to control the water coming off that property like you do in a subdivision. They let it just run out on the street. The other thing I've asked them to do is, because not just down here in the bar, I put my campaign on hold and just been visiting people in their neighborhoods and seeing this problem over and over and over again. This gentleman sitting here, house sits lower than his neighbors. His backyard's actually a dam. It's not backyard fence, it's a dam. It's piles driven down to stop water. It's pilings driven down to stop water. In American Farms, we've got the same situation where you look at one man's house and the next person next door, he's looking uphill at that house. So we need to have a policy where once a house is developed on a street or a section of road, that sets the plane for the rest of the houses. So we don't have this problem consistently going on and on, where the next guy's higher and higher and higher. It's obvious that the low spot's going to get all the water. So the two things we've got to address is meets and bounds, and how we control water on them, and then a level plane of building those houses.
But the county controls that. The county is actually the controlling factor of that. Billy Neal just said that we've got 63 new houses being built right now in Holly by the Sea. Why isn't anything being done now to at least mitigate and not make it any worse than what it already is? I guarantee when you go around in those 63 lots, every tree will be raised off those lots, and those houses will be 8 feet higher than the surrounding property. And that comes from the county. That's something we can do right now. If it comes from the state, then the county needs to work with the state, because it's insane. And then to say that we've got a cost share plan where a homeowner who bought 15 years ago on what was once high ground, why should they have to pay $1,000 to put a pipe in their yard to pipe off their neighbor's water? That's not right.
If you look at the 119 that's been done, it's not because of the problem you're addressing. It's just that people don't want that swell in their front yard. So weeks or days afterwards, it's standing in a problem.
I don't want to contradict you, but that's simply not true. I know case after case of people in desperation having to do that because of water coming onto their property from other people's yards.
Well, it's something I know we've got to address. That's why I've asked staff to start looking at it. It's been brought to our attention more so in the last few weeks, last year, than we've had ever before. We've had rains a couple of years ago. We've got rains now that we're addressing. I'm in District 2. We don't have that big a problem up there, but we do have some problems, like you say, in American Farms and stuff.
Well, Navarre is 22% of the population of Santa Rosa County, so it's the growth. It's the uncontrolled growth. And unfortunately, we also live, or fortunately, we live on a peninsula. We're surrounded by water. We're polluting the sound. We're polluting our bays. We're polluting very badly, and it's going to be a big black eye on Santa Rosa County if we don't stop it now.
I agree, and had the district commissioner brought this to us, I'll certainly work with you. That's all I can do for me, and we work together.
Well, I just want to make sure that the basketball dollar plan that will be 2 or 3 years from now, that we don't just drop the ball on that.
The district commissioner has addressed that. If this commissioner had not turned back the $4 million in 2007, and again in 2008, we might not even be talking about it, but he did. They wouldn't spend $1.8 million to get a $4 million mitigation grant. And within 10 months of that, they turned around and paid $3.1 million for a piece of land that appraised $900,000.
May I say something?
So, and we are working, I'm glad that he knows about the issue about raising homes, because I raised that with the administrator, and we're trying to find a workaround without stopping customer service. But we're trying to find a way to start looking at off-grade housing. It's cheaper to build on-grade. This building is on-grade. On-grade means pour a slab, build a building. Off-grade means raise it and then build a building. Off-grade structures look great. You can fix them. You can't tell that's what it is. And it lets the water flow, and it will eliminate a lot of that problem. We're working right now trying to find a way to make that work without contravening Florida law or our own rules, our own zoning rules. And it's good that they're beginning to percolate it through the rest of the board. He and I can't discuss issues other than just in a board meeting. But I wanted that not to be sort of, thank you. This is,
I'll let you lead. Somebody else want to address this?
I just wanted to state that I think it's great that Baskerville and Donovan is doing Holly by the Sea. I live in Holly by the Sea, but there are water issues, stormwater issues in this county at large. You know, about a week after I was in Jay, and there was flooding in Jay, there was flooding in Milton, and I would really love to see the county invest money to do a county-wide comprehensive stormwater mitigation plan as opposed to piecemeal, so that when the plan is implemented, it can be implemented, you know, in the south and work its way north, that it's all done together so that it flows. And that is something that I would love to see the county do, is to do a county stormwater mitigation plan.
Will there be another drainage question? If not, I would love to have the opportunity to weigh in on this issue. I'm wondering where the sense of urgency is on this.
Wait just a second. I let her speak first. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I also agree that spending $1,400,000 on a new piece of property for a courthouse on a highway that is rated a C rating and already congested makes no sense to me at all. I would rather see that kind of money spent on infrastructure, especially with all the problems that you have down here in the south end. Thank you.
This is a hot issue, so I'm going to let.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I'm dealing with it because my business has got water all around it. I'm just curious where the sense of urgency is, where this drainage issue is concerned. For me, this is an emergency situation, and we should be treating it as such. We should be having private contractors hired with the emergency funds that we have, and we should be having routine maintenance get caught up. We should have folks out there supervised by our public works supervisors to make sure it matches code or meets code, but have these folks out there cleaning up our drainage ditches and getting these culverts cleaned out, the stuff that we're behind on. And yet, when I ask about it, I'm told that we don't have the money. There's an immediate response in an emergency and a future response. I would like to know what the immediate response is, because I haven't seen it. And I would like to see it. I know that only being here 11 years, I've only been here 11 years, but I know that there are neighborhoods south of Highway 98 that have been experiencing drainage problems for quite some time. You know, we have the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. Well, that only works well if we have shelf-ready programs. That would require us to be more proactive instead of continuing to be reactive on this issue. So I would like to see us hire private contractors to get the ditches cleaned up. I'd like to see us hire private consultants to help with these consistent neighborhoods that have drainage issues, to where we can get these grants written and give Sheila Harris, our single grant coordinator for this county, some help. And I would like to see, for new construction, the 63 homes that just went in, I would like to see all of them have to have an approved drainage plan before they are allowed to build, so that the house next door is not negatively impacted by the new development. Because there are houses here that I know they were built in 2004, they didn't flood in 2004, and now in 2014 they flood. The conditions of their property didn't change, but the conditions around them did. And that's, to me, there needs to be a sense of urgency about this, and that's what I don't see.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ruth.
This is one of the fields that I've made a living in for a lot of years, since about 1996. I have a state underground utility license. We have a couple of problems. One, I do like the idea of building the house up, but then also, you can't hear me? Now? Can you? Can you hear me off this one? Now? This one's better?
Just a little closer to your mouth.
Okay. Can y'all hear me now? Okay. I love the idea of building the houses up off the ground, but also doing like they do on the beach and putting the retention pond underneath the house with a sand chimney. A sand chimney is what we do when we're trying to put in infrastructure in an area that there's so much water that you can't get it in there. I've put in 25-foot deep manholes and had to have 3 well point systems going at the time to do it. I worked at the Pearl in Navarre, and we put down the pilings 80-foot deep, and I had to well point down on that beach 80-foot deep to get those pilings in. What we need to do is we need to cut 48-inch circumference holes 25-foot deep in the ground, fill that with a pipe, fill that pipe with gravel and sand, give this water somewhere to go. When you cut through those hard pans, you give that water somewhere to go. We're going to have to retrofit our county in its drainage, because as we pass new codes trying to do better, we forget to look back at what happens to the existing area that was already there. And so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to buy some houses, and we're going to have to make some retention ponds, and we need to quit doing filtration systems in the banks of these retention ponds. They cost a fortune, but also the county doesn't have the manpower to clean those pipes out all the time. You can't do it. It's not possible. You cannot go through an 8-inch pipe around the bank of a retention pond and clean it out every so often. And so what happens is those ponds back up and they don't function well. We need sand chimneys in those ponds. We're going to have to go backwards on redesigning the drainage systems for our communities that cause our homes not to flood. I'm walking the streets. I'm seeing things that make me want to cry as I walk up to the doors. We have to cure this. We have to deal with this. We have to look forward and make sure that our codes work well, not only for the homes we're building, but for the homes they're affecting. And we also have to go back and look at everything we've already got. And we've got to go back and fix that stuff.
I'm sorry. Okay. Last one.
This is what I deal with on a regular basis. Mr. Friedman's over here tonight. He's who I've been working with over in Sound Hammock with his home. The houses around him had built up, and his house was one of the first ones there and was lower. And also we're having problems with the conservation areas that the developer turned over to the state. And being able to get in there and have someone clean out the conservation areas with natural debris. You can get in there and you can take away unnatural debris any day of the week. But the natural debris, you have to have permission from the DEP to get that. So we've been working with the state representative Hill and Broxton, and Commissioner Cole's come out and walked the neighborhoods, and we've come up with plans and working with the DEP, who's now going to allow us to go in there and hand remove the natural vegetation to clear the path to allow the water to flow more freely. These are kind of things that you can look at, and it will probably come up in this study. Also, there's some county-owned land through Holly by the Sea. I know that originally all this land was designated to be parks and things of that nature. Right now, they're just vacant land. So perhaps the county could look at using those lands that are already county property because it was turned over from the developer to make a retention area. I was in a community in Nevada, and that's where I did my PCAM study at. And they use these areas, they call them patios. And in the patios, they have beautiful parks. They were walking, they like to play the Frisbee golf game. I'm not sure what exactly that's called, but they had those little stations around, and they made a park out of it. And so they're using community land, and also that's where their stormwater runoff would go to. So things like that you already have, the area is already available. You're not going to have to buy out anyone's property or take away anyone's property rights. And you'd be able to use things like that. It's common sense ideas like that that the county needs to look at. And also the builders, I've dealt with the builders who come in and have to build higher up. One of the houses that was being built in the subdivision, the runoff waters, that's where it used to go to until they built the house there. And now it's being diverted and causing problems in neighbors who never had flooding problems before. But the building department does have a requirement. They can't cause more of a problem. So this house should have had some kind of drainage put in while they were building it, yet the building department didn't force them to do it. I've requested on many occasions that the building department come out and look at it, and hopefully we can get them to change that soon.
Sorry, but we have to move on. I would just indicate that I know personally that the county was contacted back in November about the property that county owns, designated park and recreation, and I did receive a response personally from the county administrator indicating he does have staff looking at that, and I will stay on that issue because that's a passion of mine is park and recreation.
You have to stay on them. You have to stay on them.
You have to stay, I know. The next question goes to
I think we all kind of, if you can feel there's kind of a common thread here. We're 22% of the population of Santa Rosa County. We pay 26% of the ad valorem taxes in Santa Rosa County. And we don't feel like we got a whole lot to show for it. I'd like to ask Commissioner Cole and Commissioner Melvin, can you name 5 projects within the last 5 years that Santa Rosa County has done for Navarre besides maintenance? And we all know they haven't been maintaining the stormwater, so road maintenance would not apply. Can you name 5 projects within the last 5 years that you've done in Navarre?
who's the two?
I came into office in 2010. It's short of the road infrastructure capital improvements. I can't name, are you talking about like parks or what?
Yes.
All right. Well, we have, I have put money into the Navarre Park and also into some of these outlying parks, the little 1 acre things that were designated. The Christian school here, Lighthouse School, thank you. Worked with them and spun up the park for them. They didn't have a place for their children to play. Working with the Marine Science Station and more money into the Turtle Station than the Science Station. Support for the Science Station, but good deal of money for that. The reefs in the Gulf of Mexico, I funded $75,000 of that. I think that's it. So the parks, the reefs, and the Turtle Center.
I've been on the board for it a little longer. I supported Gordon Gooden on the 399 sidewalks that I really thought actually was a bad idea originally. But once I seen how many citizens were taking advantage and using those sidewalks, I certainly supported it from then on.
I did
Uh,
$100.
Excuse me. Of course, Commissioner Melvin tried to nix that program as soon as he took office and found out that wasn't a good idea. Rebuilt the pier. That was a pretty big project. We got it done, got FEMA to let us tear down the old pier and rebuild it to a new pier, the longest in the Gulf of Mexico. We got a break.
County money or FEMA money?
Park County, majority FEMA, but we had to leverage it. In fact, that project went so well that the contractor came back to us and said, if you'll get the permits to extend this pier, I think another, I forget the exact figure, it wasn't much, 40 or so feet, we'll now have the longest pier in the Gulf of Mexico. He did that at no additional cost of labor. We just had to pull the permits. And then, of course, the sheriff's substation. We developed the sheriff's substation up by the high school. And, well, you're asking for things that we did while I was on the board. That's been within the last 5 years. And now we're expanding that substation. Well, we're currently expanding the substation for the sheriff's department. Of course, the splash pad at the bar,
No, that was not paid by the
No, that was private.
Well, it's maintained now, just different like that. I supported what we did at the Turtle Sanctuary, Marine Sanctuary. Again, I worked with the district commissioner, support what's being, done down here. So, and you're asking for things just in this area. I could elaborate more on District 2 if you like.
He's absolutely right about the sidewalks. I did think it was a bad idea, and I learned quickly that they're probably the most popular project going. And then the county sent me to the Transportation Planning Organization sent me to the FDOT school. And one of the things they reiterated was that sidewalks build communities, and I'm human, I make mistakes, but when I do, I correct them. And we've been funding them ever since, collaboratively, we being Lynchard and Melvin, because we pay for them. The others have to vote on how we spend their money. Most of the time they approve it, sometimes they don't. But that's been probably the most popular thing going. And I did. I publicly opposed it, and boy, did I ever learn that was a mistake.
Next question is from Ms. Beth Walters.
Yeah, but that's my fault.
That's yours.
Was it the stormwater question? Or the next one?
The next question is Mr. Egley.
Dog Willow. Thanks, Bill. I just wanted to give Commissioner Melvin an opportunity to respond to the question about Navarre Incorporating.
I don't live in Navarre. We own a condo here in Navarre. When I came home in 1990, I was attached to USMC Tokyo, and came home. My father was ill. I was sent to Hurlburt, and my wife and I bought a condo not on the beach but here across the street from Publix. We still own it today. We live there. Found out we weren't condo dwellers, and we built in 399. We built in Robladal on 399. And we moved in the house in June. My father passed away in November. Mother wouldn't come live with me. We went up and took care of Mom. That's why I live up on Blackwater Bay today. Incorporating Navarre is very, it's a hot subject. It has pros and cons. I want the will of the people to prevail. I want there to be good information, good, accurate data, and I want the public to make an informed decision. And I'm willing to live with it one way or the other. I do have a dog in the fight, although I won't be allowed to vote on it because I don't live here anymore. I've seen the numbers on how it's run. One thing I will point out that by state law and by the way the counties are set up, county services are funded by ad valorem taxes on all the real estate in the county, and they're there to provide services for the unincorporated areas. Now, we do provide services for the incorporated areas on a for-fee basis. So, for instance, if you opted not to have your own own police department, you would have to make some arrangements with the sheriff's department. And you know, if he needs more cars or whatever, that would probably be on your tab, because it wouldn't be on ours, because we've got the unincorporated area controlled. Right now, the way it is right now, the volunteer fire department take care of the fire and rescue, and the sheriff takes care of the law enforcement. It's a complicated issue. It's an exciting issue. One of the reasons that when I made the decision to put my home over in District 2 is based on two things. A, I thought it was the right thing to do, and B, the incumbent said he was retiring. So it didn't make any difference to him, and it was the right thing to do to me, because it put this commissioner down here. I was in District 4 when I was elected, but I was at the far northern end of District 4. Don't ever intend to leave. So I like it, but there's a lot of pros and cons to it. And like I said, I'm not going to get to vote on it, but there's a lot to look at. And until you get the feasibility study, which is, you know, going to really tell the tale. And there's the straw vote's approved. It's going to get on the ballot with a straw vote. But then there's a list, and if anybody can send me an email or talk to me before I leave, I'll share. There's a 2-page, 3-page list of laundry list of, you know, how to become a city, and it has procedural steps have to be followed in order. Boom, 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 and you go through those. These folks are working, volunteers are working through it. It's a whale of a job. It's a big job. I support the effort, and I'll abide by what the public decides.
Thank you. Okay, unless the candidates indicate that they're willing to stay longer than the initial agreed time, we have time enough for one more question. So I would just ask the candidates now, are they willing to stay, or do we shut down at the designated 8 o'clock time? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
About the new courthouse, the location of the new courthouse.
Location of the courthouse? Somebody, John, named John? Okay.
That's you? There it is.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's not my name, but that was my question.
It is?
What's your name? Well, then ask your question.
Are you John?
I'm Art.
Okay.
All right, John.
I'll direct the question to Karen Holloway. The referendum upcoming, would you ask us to vote to tax ourselves, build a new courthouse, and if so, where would you put it?
My understanding is it's already on the ballot to ask you to consider the sales tax increase to fund the location. The question is at this point where it's going to be and which locations will not be on the vote in November. I will tell you from my personal perspective, and it comes from my finance background, I think there needs to be a long-term design for the judicial center, but I also think that money needs to be well spent, and that does not necessarily mean it needs to be the biggest piece of property or the one that has the most traffic issues associated with it. Now, to be honest, I don't think that the judicial center went through the process that it really should have to get the community involved with where it's going to be, what the implications are for where it's going to be, and what it's going to cost us. I'm disappointed at this point that it's at the stage that it's at, and people are such disparate views, and there is no consensus on what's the best thing for the community. But at this point, it needs to go. We need to decide, and the citizens are ultimately the ones who need to say. That's my personal expectation. You need to tell us where you think it needs to be, and the vote needs to be on in November.
Anybody else like to follow up to that? Yeah.
Yeah, I hate taxes with a passion. But the fact is that the existing courthouse is in such bad shape that anybody that goes in it, you would be completely embarrassed by it. I think that we need to tax ourselves as small as we can because we have so many other bills that we're having to pay that I'm actually more into the half-cent tax, even though it takes longer, because of the simple logic that I might like buying rice by the gallon, but maybe I can't afford it. And so I think make it as easy on the people as you can. I think it should be in East Milton, and here's why. Because it would be fairer to us. In the South, we don't feel like going all the way into Milton. We like it better if it's a little more convenient to us. And so if they would put it in East Milton, I think it would be fairer to everyone, and the traffic wouldn't be such a problem. 87 is going to be completed, what, by 2017? And so, yeah, it would be a much more comfortable ride for us to get to. I feel that it would represent us much better. And I just think it would be a safer place to put it. Highway 90 was the worst possible site because of the traffic. I don't know how you put another car on that road. And I don't like the across the train track by the jailhouse idea. This is supposed to be our picture piece in our county. It needs to be beautiful. We need to have a nice roadway going to it. We need to be proud of it. We don't need it to be stuck behind a jailhouse, hidden across the train track. We need it in a nice spot that we're proud, that we feel that we accomplished something and that we like what we got for our dollar.
I agree that the cart was put before the horse in this process. I think the public should have had input from the very beginning and not towards the very end. Right now you have two choices that are going to be on the ballot. That will be the Byram Cotton property on Highway 90 and the Coldwell Banker property on Highway 90 downtown. So you've got the Byram Cotton property, Highway 90, East Milton, Highway 90 downtown, near the intersection of Avalon Boulevard. So that's what you're stuck with right now. I think it's good that the people are going to have a choice on the vote. I did not like the way it was brought about and it was done. There was a survey and they ended up with the Avalon location, and to tell you the truth, it's already congested there. I don't know how they could have accepted that location. Totally congested. So, thank you.
15 seconds.
Fast. There's a meeting Tuesday night at Tiger Point Community Center, and the commissioners came down to discuss the courthouse. And I'm really glad that they came down to this local area. The Cotton Byram property is the East Milton site, and of course Pea Ridge, Caldwell Banker site. I believe the Caldwell Banker site has had some issues because we had another company come in, or person come in and purchase the property, hoping to make a buck off the county once they heard that. And I think that if we put it there, that we're never going to hear the end of it, just like we're never going to hear the end of the Pullen property purchase. And so I think that right now that land is poisoned and we should stay away from it. I did always like the East Milton area better, not only because I'm from Navarre, but I believe all around it would be better. I have heartburn pain to go over the Garcon Point Bridge, but I would have, personally, I live in Navarre, I would have gone up 87 and down I-10 to get to any of the others. You know, we have the same problem going into Milton that the people from Milton are complaining about getting out. We can't stay in the courthouse we have now. It's full of mold and asbestos. I worked in a refinery. I dealt with asbestos on a regular basis. We would be moving great. Next thing you know, they hit asbestos, we'd be shut down. So that's a problem that's with the current situation in the county courthouse.
Pete?